Nobody expected Brian Okwara's calm acting style to suddenly become one of the biggest conversations among Nollywood viewers this period, but somehow the internet has reached that point where people are now replaying scenes just to watch the way he reacts silently, loudly collision. And the funniest part is that Brian is not even doing anything loud or extra, because while many actors try to dominate romantic scenes with shouting, dramatic movement, and aggressive emotions, Brian is literally out here acting like somebody who understands the power of quiet tension. Cold-face viewers are now saying his scenes feel less like performances and more like moments people accidentally witnessed in real life, because the emotions never feel rushed. And that is exactly why fans cannot stay calm about it right now. Broken heart. One thing people keep mentioning is how Brian behaves like someone who already knows the ending of every emotional conversation before it even starts. Because instead of immediately reacting, he pauses first, stares quietly, breathes slowly, and somehow makes the silence feel louder than actual dialogue. Loudly crying face fans are now joking that Brian's facial expressions deserve separate movie credits, because there are scenes where he barely speaks, but viewers still understand exactly what the character is feeling. Collision, and honestly that is becoming part of the reason people are suddenly obsessed with his romantic scenes lately, because the emotions look controlled instead of forced. Cold face. Some viewers are even saying Brian acts like a man who would rather emotionally suffer in silence than argue loudly, and somehow that energy is making fans even more attached to his characters, because people are tired of seeing every romantic lead behave aggressively in emotional situations. Now whenever Brian appears in a love scene, people immediately start expecting soft eye contact, slow conversations, painful silence, and emotional tension that feels too real. Broken heart. One thing that keeps making viewers replay his scenes is the fact that Brian rarely acts desperate for attention inside movies, because even when the entire scene becomes emotional, he still maintains this calm gentleman energy that makes everything feel mature. And now fans are saying his acting style feels different from the typical Nollywood formula, where everybody screams every 5 seconds loudly, crying face. Some people even joked that Brian can break hearts without raising his voice, because there are scenes where he quietly says one emotional sentence, and viewers somehow feel more pain than they would from a full dramatic monologue. Cold face. Another thing viewers are noticing is how Brian's calm energy changes the acting style of people around him, because once he enters emotional scenes, everybody else suddenly slows down too, and fans are saying that is one reason his chemistry with Sonia Uch feels so believable lately. Collision. Sonia usually brings visible emotional reactions, while Brian balances everything with softer expressions, and somehow the combination creates scenes that feel dangerously realistic. Loudly crying face. Viewers are now paying attention to tiny details like the way Brian looks away during emotional conversations, or how he slowly smiles during romantic moments. And honestly, the fact that people are discussing these little movements online already proves how much his acting style is affecting viewers. Broken heart. Some fans are even saying Brian acts like somebody who listens emotionally before speaking, and that specific observation is becoming weirdly attractive to viewers, because most movie characters usually rush to defend themselves, while Brian's characters often stay quiet long enough for emotions to settle first. Cold face. People are now calling him Mr. Soft Tension, because his scenes feel emotionally heavy without him doing too much, and honestly, that nickname somehow fits perfectly. Another reason fans cannot stop talking about Brian right now is because his acting style feels older and calmer compared to the chaotic energy many romantic movies usually depend on, because instead of forcing chemistry through endless dramatic speeches, Brian creates chemistry through timing, silence, eye contact, and body language. Collision. Viewers are beginning to realize that some of the most emotional moments in romance movies are actually the quiet ones, and Brian seems to understand that perfectly. Loudly crying face. There are scenes where he simply sits beside Sonia Uch quietly, and somehow fans still end up acting like they watched the greatest love story ever created. Cold face. One thing that surprised many people recently is how Brian's emotional restraint is becoming more attractive to viewers than dramatic masculinity, because instead of trying to prove strength through anger, his characters often show maturity through patience, and fans are saying that calmness feels more realistic and comforting. Broken heart. Some viewers even described his acting style as emotionally expensive, because every small reaction feels carefully controlled and intentional. Loudly crying face. And honestly, the internet is eating it up right now, because people are tired of exaggerated emotional performances that feel too artificial. Collision. Another thing making Brian trend lately is how his scenes create anticipation, because viewers know he is not going to react immediately, so everybody keeps waiting for that one emotional sentence or facial expression that finally reveals what the character is feeling. And somehow those delayed reactions are making scenes more intense. Cold face. Some fans are even comparing his acting style to slow-burn romance movies, where emotions build gradually instead of exploding instantly. And now viewers are saying Brian makes romantic tension feel more believable, because real emotions usually develop slowly in real life too. There are people online saying Brian acts like the type of man who would quietly fix problems instead of shouting about them. And honestly, fans are projecting that energy into his movie characters heavily right now. Broken heart. Another thing viewers noticed is how Brian rarely over-explains emotions in scenes, because his expressions usually communicate enough already, and now fans are replaying scenes trying to catch small emotional details they missed. The first time loudly crying face people are literally discussing his eye movements, breathing patterns, and pauses like they are decoding secret messages, and somehow that conversation keeps growing bigger every day. Cold face. One viewer even joked that Brian's silence carries more dialogue than full Nollywood scripts. And honestly, the internet did not disagree. Some fans are now saying his acting style feels refreshing, because he behaves like somebody comfortable with emotional vulnerability, instead of constantly trying to appear dominant, and viewers are connecting strongly with that softer energy. Collision now. Every time Brian appears in romantic scenes, fans immediately start expecting emotional eye contact, quiet tension, gentle reactions, and scenes that somehow feel more personal than dramatic. Broken heart. Another reason people cannot stop talking about him is because his calm delivery makes viewers focus more on emotions instead of distractions, because there is no unnecessary shouting pulling attention away from the scene, and fans are saying that simplicity is